According to Nietzsche, perhaps the most important philosopher of our age, we live in an anti-noble culture. Unfortunately, modernity has killed all sense of aristocracy and brainwashed us into accepting the morality of peasants. This has created a world of slop. Let me explain with a quick story that's probably going to get me into trouble. Yesterday I got into a sauna and everyone was meditating except that one guy. He jabbered for 15 minutes straight about the lower traffic in Denver compared to LA, sales taxes, and his season tickets to the Nuggets sports team. He talked enthusiastically about the most mundane, boring shit in the world as if it was actually interesting. And then he stood and proclaimed that the cold plunge was stupid and not for him before walking his skinny fat ass out of the sauna to the relief of everyone. And no, he wasn't autistic either. All I could think after he left was that man was the epitome of mediocrity. Nietzsche's Last Man embodied. I know these are tragically judgmental thoughts. I'm really working on being more compassionate and open to everyone. But nonetheless, some people not only bore the shit out of me, their way of acting and thinking is literally painful to be around. So with the utmost compassion and respect, I speak a truth here most are too afraid to say. There are different spiritual races within mankind. There are different types of humans. A man's spiritual race is revealed by what he prioritizes in life and how he shapes his character. And there's a gaping chasm between those who seek comfort and the mundane and those who seek excellence and the profound. And we all grasp this intuitively. Certain types of humans are more alien to each other than pugs are to wolves. Now, nobility isn't always clear-cut and easily defined, but it undoubtedly exists. And I think it's essential we learn to recognize it in the world and in ourselves, and then earn it and cultivate it. Nobility in the Nietzschean sense is a quality of spirit and vitality, not birth alone. And here are 3 things that separate the noble higher types from the common crowd. Today we think of an aristocrat as some soft-handed brat that tyrannizes the good working man. And though this is true in some cases, this is mostly the result of the decline of true aristocracy and 100 years of democratic and Marxist propaganda. In the old world, especially in ancient Greece and other high points of knightly culture, the aristocracy was basically a cult of excellence. It's what aristos means, the best, the excellent. The elites competed against each other in debates, in sports, in war, and in virtue to be the best man. They were differentiated from the common people in 1,000 ways, from their physical fitness to their manners to their morality. And Nietzsche covered this extensively in the genealogy of morals. Historically, good meant noble, aristocratic, beautiful, and spiritually high-minded. In contrast, bad was associated with the common or plain. To quote Nietzsche, everywhere, noble, aristocratic, in social terms, is the basic concept from which necessarily good, in the sense of spiritually noble, aristocratic, of spiritually high-mindedness, spiritually privileged, developed. A developed that always runs parallel with that other one, which ultimately transfers common, plebeian, low, into the concept bad. The best example for the latter is the German word schlecht, bad itself, which is identical with schlicht, plain and simple, and originally referred to the simple or the common man. This is one of Nietzsche's greatest contributions to philosophy, and one of his great insights was documenting how language and morality has changed to elevate the herd and diminish the nobility. The definitions of good and bad have essentially reversed today. We now celebrate the common, everybody's man, instead of the heroic and set-apart individual. Everything from our commercials to our politicians to 99% of the content you watch is trying to appeal to the masses rather than the exceptional. Hence, we have the slopification of everything, because there is no aristocracy to speak of. And when the elites are not true aristocrats, there is no leadership, because people don't actually look up to them. This creates a world devoid of ideals, resentful of greatness, and full of last men. This is what Nietzsche warned against, the sauna man. Sauna Man revealed his inner essence in 4 ways. Number 1, he was vulgar. Number 2, he spoke only of mere life, food, taxes, traffic, and sports games. The same exact conversation the plebs in ancient Rome had. Number 3, he avoided pain and denounced it as bad. And number 4, his moral perspective was firmly utilitarian. Utilitarianism is the most common and base perspective to life there is, and it's the mark of a herd man. These people seek to A, minimize suffering, like avoiding the cold plunge and decreasing traffic, and maximize pleasure, aka cheap tasty food and sports games. Everything is viewed through the lens of seeking advantage. How does this advantage me and maybe other people? This perspective seems logical, but the problem is it's looking down, so to speak. It's materialistic. All it cares for is making life more pleasant for myself and others, but it does nothing for the elevation of life. To quote Nietzsche again, what distinguishes the common type is that it never loses sight of its advantage, and that this thought of purpose and advantage is even stronger than its strongest instincts. Compared to them, the higher type is more unreasonable. For those who are noble, magnanimous, and self-sacrificial do succumb to their instincts, and when they are at their best, their reason pauses. Higher types tend to be more unreasonable, and they are far more concerned with the elevation of life, rather than making life easier. Nietzsche noted that brave and creative men never elevate pain or pleasure into primary concerns. These are secondary factors if they're considered at all. For instance, the aristocrats of the ancient world were often aiming much higher than at mere life, and this is seen in the fact that they would have willingly died for glory, for honor, freedom, their nation, or God. In contrast, what would Sauna Man die for? Nothing. It's the same for our mass culture. We have elevated mere life, mere existence, into a good in and of itself. And if the majority had their utilitarian way, our society would come to resemble a goddamn nursing home, where everyone is safe and perfectly content playing checkers and eating tasty treats, and their greatest conflict would be sports or politicians on the TV. This is where the utilitarian philosophy leads, to a perfectly domesticated life of minimal pain and total control. The scary part is we are close to this, especially with the advent of AI. Ultimately, this vast domestication of man comes from a variety of sources, but the utilitarian perspective is a primary cause. And in reaction to this domestication, I do see a new man arising, like a tree reawakening from a long winter slumber. A new aristocracy and brotherhood of men is awakening. These higher types are spread across the world, but they hold the seeds of the future. My quest with these videos is to filter the entire world to find and gather the like-minded men, the ones who want to revive the classical spirit. So if that's you, you can schedule a vibe check call down below to enter our men's community. I feel like so many great people are physically and intellectually isolated right now, and we need to bring the change that we want to see. So again, link below. Let's continue with the video. Number 2, Life-Affirmation. Higher types say yes. Quote, "The higher man is distinguished from the lower by his fearlessness and his readiness to challenge misfortune. Suffering and misfortune, these are built into life, and your relationship to suffering will determine your potential and where you end up. For instance, most people try to fix suffering. They try to mitigate suffering or dull the pain of life. Hence, they're trying to create more of a nursing home kind of vibe. The higher types are a little bit more courageous in their disposition to the suck. And this is something we can all develop. I was going through heartbreak a few weeks ago, and a couple days there were so shitty of just emotion, of anger, of frustration, of grief. And at a certain point there, I just had to say, fuck it. Bring it on. I just smiled and sank into the pain. The thing is I've been there before. And since I have faced far worse pain and losses in the past, I understood that this pain would be the fuel for a brand new renewal. Wrestling with my lower nature, the part of me that's reactive, that's scared, that is seeking comfort, it's always a challenge, but this is where the warrior spirit comes into play. Nietzsche said that higher types, they seek to conquer, to overcome, to be worthy of their afflictions. And more than that, the highest types of humans come to love their fate. To quote him, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different." Amor fati means to love your fate, to love all that comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny. And to me, this requires a heroic spirituality, which is something I'm trying to revive through this channel, and I'll link my full video about it at the end. Let's move on to the third thing that distinguishes higher types, and that is vitalism. Quote, the knightly, aristocratic values are based on a careful cult of the physical, on a flowering, rich, and even effervescing healthiness that goes considerably beyond what is necessary for maintaining mere life, on war, adventure, the chase, the dance, the tourney, on everything, in fact, which is contained in strong, free, and joyous action. Strong, free, and joyous action. This is perhaps the most vitalistic phrase within the genealogy of morals and is central to the aristocratic philosophy. Higher types are distinguished from the common by their vitalism, by their prioritization of those actions and thoughts which elevate life, that produce the greatest physical, intellectual, and spiritual vitality. I think this is where a hard line in the sand is drawn between the intelligentsia and the aristocrats of the soul. Higher types aren't Whiggish, sitting behind books all day and arguing over minutiae. They want to feel and experience the fullness of life. They are more susceptible to passions, to noble feelings, to magnanimous attitudes, and to expressing their will to power into the world. Vitalism is what defined the ancient Greek, German, Roman, and most nomadic societies. And I believe the return to physical culture and vitalism is one of the things that will save our own civilization. It is essential for high culture, and this video dives deep into the physiological wisdom of Nietzsche and the ancient aristocrats. So you can click there for more. And there's a link below to apply to join our budding secret society and men's community. We got large plans for world domination. I'll see you in there. Peace.